Welcome to the fourth video on how to use the Blue Letter Bible app. In this training session, we're going to look up how to pull up commentaries, sermon notes, and other resources. Now, the good thing about Blue Letter Bible app is that they do lean conservative evangelical. So many of the resources that they have are leaning and are geared more towards the conservative theologian. So most of the things on here we feel good about, right? So that being said, let's look at John 1 as an example. In John 1, we can click on here, and under the study section, and you can click on any verse, under the study section, we can look at text commentaries. So let's select text commentaries. And in these commentaries, let's just look at the dark blue. So charts and outlines, Chuck Smith, that's a pastor, well-known pastor. David Guzik, that's one we'll look at. So we see other guys like Matthew Henry, that's an old Puritan. So they just have a long list of different theologians and pastors that have their resources here specifically geared towards John 1, right? So for an example, we're just going to use David Guzik. He's got a great example of commentaries on here. So if we click study guide for John 1, we see, because this is the first chapter, he probably is going to do an intro. So he's saying, John, the fourth gospel. So he goes through here and he kind of gives you just an intro into the gospel of John, right? He hasn't started in verse 1 yet of the first chapter. But here we go. So B, the prologue to the gospel of John. And then under number 1, he says John 1, 1 through 2. So he does this expositionally. He takes each verse, goes word by word, phrase by phrase, and breaks it down, right? So he gives you verses 1 through 2, and he says, in the beginning. He says, this refers to the timeless eternity of Genesis 1:1, right? And so the words in red, those are the actual verses that he's either quoting or referencing, and then he gives his ideas. And then other parts, like where you see, it says, was the word, and you read down, it says, parentheses, trench, or under here it says, parentheses, Dodds. Those are just other theologians that he's bringing in, he's referencing. He says, hey, look, this other theologian said this, that's, I believe, is, talking about this verse, right? And then the next part of the verse says, in the beginning was the Word. And he says the word was translates the ancient Greek word logos, right? Or logos, however you want to pronounce it. So he gives a great, if you have questions about certain things, he can give great background, he can give great comments. And like I said, many of these men on here are conservative and they're orthodox, so we feel pretty good about trusting these tools, right? Another example is we go back here to study, we can pull up, you can always pull up Bible comparisons, right? And look at one verse specifically and look at all the different translations in a row so you can kind of get a good feel for what that might mean. You can also pull up audio and video. So there might be sermons or lectures or things of resources like that from different pastors or theologians where they talk and they preach or they teach over John 1, right? This is a great resource that you can listen to as well. And then also there's dictionaries. Some of these dictionaries are actually pretty good. I like to use them. Like we can click on the Easton's Bible Dictionary, John Gospel of. He just kind of gives you a good prologue into what the Gospel of John is about, right? So he kind of breaks it down, gives you a good Bible introduction, right? So there's just some really good things on here. Trying to think if there's anything else we want to cover, but other than that is a good way to reference commentaries, pastor notes, and maybe some sermons or lectures you might want to listen to.